I met Rachel 7 years ago, and right from the start, we connected on a level that felt so natural. We grew up in small towns where family values and Sunday church visits were just part of life. Those days shaped who we were and what we wanted in the future. I'd carved out a career as an engineer, while Rachel was working for a big tech company in Dallas, selling accounting software. Before we even got married, my parents gave me an incredible gift, a 3-bedroom house. They were generous like that, wanting to see me succeed while they were still around, rather than waiting until later. After tying the knot 5 years ago, life with Rachel felt like a dream. We were in love, happy, and, honestly, our honeymoon phase never really ended. Our physical connection was strong too. Let's just say we were intimate several times a week, and our friends couldn't stop joking about how inseparable we seemed. A lot of them even envied us for it. That feeling of joy doubled when Rachel and I had twin girls. They became the center of our world. We shifted our priorities, focused on raising them in the most loving environment possible. Some people might have thought our life was a bit routine, staying home most nights, saving weekends for going out, and always keeping Sundays for church. But that was us, and we were happy with it. Rachel's wardrobe was modest. She wasn't the type to go for flashy trends, even at work. She preferred to keep things simple and classy, which I loved about her. Our marriage was built on trust and open communication. Rachel was always affectionate, always kissing me or holding my hand, and I appreciated that. Even with the chaos of parenting, we worked together as a team. Sure, the twins could be overwhelming at times, but I was always there to help her get through it. Life was good, and we were solid as a couple. Or so I thought. Everything started to shift the week Rachel had to attend her company's annual exhibition. She wasn't even supposed to go. A bunch of her coworkers had caught some bug, and she got roped into covering for them. Rachel wasn't thrilled about it, either. She kept telling me how much she didn't want to leave us for the 3-day trip, even tried to get out of it by talking to her boss. But there wasn't much she could do. She apologized over and over, and I reassured her that we'd be fine for a few days without her, even though we'd miss her, of course. I helped her pack, and we left for the airport together. At that point, I had no reason to doubt her. Our marriage was strong, built on years of trust. Rachel had never done anything to make me question her love or faithfulness. But that was about to change. On the second night that Rachel was away, I got a text from Ethan, a buddy of mine who happened to be at a cybersecurity event in Dallas. He mentioned casually that he'd seen Rachel at some exhibition there and asked if I was attending the same event. I confirmed that she was in Dallas, but I wasn't sure about the exact exhibition she was attending. His message left me curious, though, wondering why he'd even bring it up. Then he sent a couple of pictures and a short video, and that's when my whole world began to collapse. The first picture was of Rachel in a dress I'd never seen before, something way more revealing than she would typically wear. It was short, and the neckline plunged deeper than anything she owned. She looked stunning, I won't lie. At first, I almost laughed, thinking it was funny to see her like that. She wasn't the type to dress up like that for me, so it was a bit of a shock. But the laughter didn't last long. The next picture was of her sitting way too close to a guy, who I recognized immediately, Tom, her boss. I stared at the image, my mind going numb, trying to process what I was seeing. Then came the video. It was short, just a few seconds, but what I saw hit me like a truck. In it, Rachel was kissing Tom, her arms wrapped around his neck, and his hand was resting comfortably on her chest. That moment changed everything. My chest tightened, and I struggled to breathe. The tears came, and I couldn't stop them. I just sat there, frozen, unable to believe that this was my life. Ethan must have sensed my silence because another message popped up. Are you okay? What do you want me to do? Should I check on her? Still reeling, I managed to respond, yes, I'll call her now. I dialed Rachel's number immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. I left a message, trying to sound normal, saying that we missed her and hoped she was having a good time. After hanging up, I messaged Ethan again, letting him know I'd tried to call. He replied quickly, sounding like he regretted sending the pictures in the first place. Hank, I'm sorry about this. I didn't know what to do. I just thought you should know. I saw her look at her phone when you called, but she didn't answer. I've never seen her act like this. Thanks, Ethan, I replied, trying to keep it together. I'll handle it. Just keep me posted if you see anything else, but don't follow her. I've got this. Sitting in my dark living room, I poured myself a drink, trying to make sense of it all. I kept asking myself how I could have missed this. How long had it been going on? None of it made sense to me. In the past 6 months, Rachel and I had only gotten closer, or at least that's what I thought. I couldn't comprehend how this had happened. About an hour later, Ethan sent me more photos and another video. One shot showed them dancing, Tom's hand on the small of her back. Another video captured a kiss, right there on the dance floor, their bodies pressed against each other like they didn't have a care in the world. That was when I knew. My marriage to Rachel was over. But I needed to understand more before I made my move. After what Ethan had shown me, I spent the next few days obsessing over it, replaying every moment in my head. How had I been so blind? Rachel had always been so affectionate and open with me, at least I thought she had. I couldn't shake the image of her kissing Tom, and the longer I thought about it, the angrier I became. But I knew I needed a plan. I wasn't going to confront her without more proof, and I sure as hell wasn't going to rush into anything without thinking it through. A few days after the exhibition, Rachel called me around 10 p.m., right after I'd received the last of those gut-wrenching photos. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady as I answered. "Hey, sorry I missed your call earlier," she said, sounding sweet as ever. "I was at a dinner meeting and couldn't pick up. I miss you so much, babe. I can't wait to be home, cuddling with you and the girls." "I miss you too, Rachel," I replied, keeping my emotions in check. "The girls are doing great, by the way. They can't wait for you to get home. We all miss you." "I tried to get out of here tomorrow, but my boss insisted I stay one more day," she said, her voice tinged with regret. "I hate being away from you guys, but we'll celebrate when I get back." "You done for the day?" I asked, trying to keep the conversation casual. "Yeah, I'm about to head to bed." "It's been a long day," she answered. "I love you, Hank. Good night." "I love you more than words can say, Rachel," I said, hanging up the phone and feeling the weight of her lie pressing down on me. I wanted to believe her, wanted to hold on to the woman I'd fallen in love with. But I knew better now. As soon as I hung up, another message from Ethan came through, a photo of Rachel and Tom sitting in a hotel lobby. His hand was sliding up under her skirt while she kissed him like they didn't have a care in the world. Ethan messaged again, "Hank, I'm calling it a night. Looks like she's pretty busy. Let me know if you need me to keep watching." I stared at my phone, feeling a strange mix of fury and disbelief. "No need to follow her anymore," I replied. "It's her mistake, not yours. Thanks for everything." That night, I cried myself to sleep. The woman I had loved more than anything had betrayed me in a way I never thought possible. Every promise, every vow we'd made to each other felt like a cruel joke. I thought about our wedding day, how she looked at me with so much love in her eyes. Was it all a lie? The next morning, Rachel bombarded me with messages, full of hearts, kisses, and emojis. She told me how much she missed me and the girls, how excited she was to get back home. She even hinted at a passionate night together once she returned, like everything was normal. But everything had changed. When she finally came home, she acted as if nothing had happened. She was all sweetness and affection, playing with the girls, wrapping her arms around me like the perfect wife. I started to wonder if she had some kind of split personality or if she was just that good at hiding the truth. Deep down, I knew that I couldn't keep living in this lie. But I also knew that I couldn't just confront her without a plan. I needed more proof, and I needed to protect myself and my daughters. So, I made a decision. I used my tech skills to install tracking software on Rachel's phone. I didn't feel great about it, but after what I'd seen, I didn't have much choice. The software would record everything, calls, texts, emails, and upload it to the cloud. It wasn't something I ever imagined doing, but I was desperate to know the full truth. As I waited for the software to start gathering data, I threw myself into caring for our twins. They were my lifeline, the one thing keeping me grounded through all the chaos. Whether it was making breakfast, cleaning up toys, or playing with them in the living room, those moments with them were the only time I felt any sense of peace. It was a typical afternoon. The girls had just gone down for their nap, and I was sitting at the kitchen table, trying to get my head straight. Rachel had sent me a few more sweet texts, telling me she'd call around 5 p.m. when her workday ended. I was trying to stay focused, to act normal, But every time my phone buzzed with another message from her, it just twisted the knife deeper. Around 2 p.m., I logged into the cloud account where the tracking software had been uploading everything. I clicked through some of the data, my heart pounding in my chest. And then, there it was, messages between Rachel and Tom, as clear as day. The first one read, "You were amazing last night, babe. Can't wait for tonight." Tom had replied, "Thanks, honeybee. I had a great time too. Let's meet in my room after work before dinner." Rachel's response made my blood boil. "Sounds good, but I need to call my husband first. I'll be ready by 5:15. Then Tom asked the question that made everything snap into place. "Does he suspect anything?" Her reply was like a punch to the gut. "Of course not. He thinks I'm still in love with him. We've kept it a secret for over 6 months, and he has no clue. Don't worry." 6 months. For 6 months, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone had been living a double life. I'd been played for a fool, and she didn't even seem to feel guilty about it. She was using my nickname for her, Honeybee, with him. A name I had given her during our most intimate moments, now shared with another man. I couldn't believe it. The rage that had been simmering inside me finally erupted. I slammed my laptop shut and hurled the nearest thing, an old lamp, across the room. It smashed against the wall, shattering into pieces, but it didn't make me feel any better. If anything, it just made me feel worse. I was about to throw something else when I heard the twins crying from their room. Their innocent little voices pulled me back from the edge. I took a deep breath and went to their room, scooping them up into my arms. Holding them close, I calmed myself down. I had to be strong for them, no matter how broken I felt inside. After getting them settled and cleaning up the mess I'd made, I poured myself a strong drink and sat down to figure out what the hell I was going to do next. My mind was racing. Our marriage was beyond saving, there was no doubt about that now. But how could I let Rachel continue living this lie? How could I let her be around our daughters, pretending to be this perfect wife and mother while sneaking around behind my back? I didn't want to keep listening to the calls or reading the texts. It was too much. I let everything pile up in the cloud, knowing I could go through it later when I had the strength. For now, I had to keep up appearances. I couldn't tip my hand too soon. I needed to act like nothing had changed while I figured out my next steps, talk to a lawyer, hire a private investigator, and make sure I could get custody of the girls. They were the only thing that truly mattered to me at this point. Later that afternoon, when Rachel called, I picked up and played the role of the loving, clueless husband. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, forcing a smile into my voice. "The girls miss you so much." "Oh, I miss them too," she replied, her voice dripping with affection. "And I miss you, Hank. I can't wait to wrap my arms around you when I get back. We'll have such a special night together." "I can't wait either," I lied, trying not to choke on the words. "I love you, Rachel." "I love you more," she said before ending the call. As soon as I hung up, the sick feeling in my stomach returned. She was so good at this. The way she switched between being the doting wife and mother and whatever it was she had going on with Tom, it made me sick to think about it. But I had to keep my emotions in check. I couldn't let her know what I was planning. That night, as I lay in bed alone, I knew there was no turning back. I would gather all the evidence I needed, and when the time was right, I would confront her. But until then, I would play along, acting as if nothing was wrong, while quietly preparing for the storm that was about to come crashing down on her. The days after that call felt like walking on a tightrope. I had to pretend like everything was fine, that I hadn't seen those messages, photos, or videos. Every time Rachel was near me, smiling and acting like the perfect wife, I wanted to scream. But I knew I had to keep it together, at least for now. I couldn't tip her off before I had everything lined up. So I played my role, all while preparing for the inevitable. I met with a divorce lawyer, laid out everything I knew, and told her about the evidence I had. She was shocked by how much Rachel had hidden. I wasn't sure what hurt more, Rachel's betrayal or the lies she had kept feeding me. My lawyer assured me that, with the evidence I had, I could easily get full custody of the girls. But I needed more before I made my move. I needed to be absolutely sure that when I confronted her, she wouldn't have any way to wriggle out of it. That's when I hired a private investigator. I wanted someone who could dig deeper, who could get me more proof, not just of her affair with Tom, but of any other lies she might be hiding. And sure enough, The PI didn't disappoint. He gathered hours of footage, dozens of photos, and hundreds of messages between Rachel and Tom. But that wasn't even the worst of it. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after Rachel had returned from the exhibition, the PI called me into his office. He had something new to show me, something he wasn't even sure how to break to me over the phone. When I arrived, he handed me a stack of photos. They weren't just of Rachel and Tom. There was another man in the photos too. I stared at them, feeling the blood drain from my face. "Do you know who this is?" the PI asked, his voice low, almost apologetic. It took me a second to process. "Charlie Gray," I said slowly, recognizing him from the company's website. "He's the CEO of Rachel's company." The PI nodded. "Based on the evidence, it seems like Rachel's been involved with both of them, Tom and Charlie, for at least the past few months." I felt sick. It wasn't just an affair. It was 2 affairs. She was cheating on me with both her boss and the CEO. And worse, they didn't seem to care who knew about it. The PI even showed me a video of the 3 of them together at a company event, laughing, drinking, and acting like they were above the rules, like nothing could touch them. There was no denying it now. Rachel wasn't just unfaithful, she was living a double life, and I had been completely blind to it. The pain of betrayal felt like a physical weight on my chest, but with that pain came clarity. I knew what I had to do. That evening, after the girls were asleep, Rachel and I sat on the couch, watching a movie. She snuggled up next to me, her head resting on my shoulder, and for a moment, I almost forgot everything. But then I remembered what I had seen earlier that day, and the anger returned. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos the PI had given me. One by one, I scrolled through the images of Rachel with Tom and Charlie, trying to keep my voice steady. "Rachel," I said calmly, not looking at her, "have you ever cheated on me?" She looked up at me, startled, her eyes wide. "Hank, why would you even ask me that? Of course not. I love you. I've never even thought about it." I smiled bitterly. "So you're telling me that you've been completely faithful this whole time?" "Yes," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Why would you think otherwise?" I handed her my phone. "Then explain this." She looked down at the photo of her and Tom kissing at the exhibition. Her face went pale, and for the first time since this whole nightmare began, she didn't have anything to say. I kept going, showing her more photos, more evidence. "And this one. What about this video?" I played the clip of her sitting on a couch with Tom, his hand moving up her skirt. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Hank, I can explain." I cut her off. "Explain what? That you've been cheating on me for months? That you're sleeping with not 1, but 2 men behind my back? I trusted you, Rachel. I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me." She started to sob, but I wasn't done. "You're going to pack your things and leave tonight. I don't want you here when the girls wake up. They don't deserve to see their mother like this." Rachel tried to reach out to me, but I pulled away. "Please, Hank, I'm sorry. I'll stop. I'll do anything. I love you, I love the girls. Please don't do this." "You should have thought about that before you decided to ruin our family," I said coldly. "You need to leave." That night, Rachel packed her bags and left for her mother's house. I didn't feel any relief, only sadness. I loved her once, and a part of me still did, but there was no going back from this. She had shattered everything we built together. A few days later, I sent everything I had, the photos, the messages, the videos, to her company's HR department, to Tom's wife, and to Charlie's wife. The fallout was swift. Tom's wife filed for divorce, and Charlie's wife did the same. Both men lost their jobs, and the company was hit with lawsuits that they were unprepared for. Rachel, too, faced the consequences of her actions, losing her job and any chance of rebuilding the life we had. As for me, I got full custody of the girls. I'm doing my best to raise them in a stable, loving home, even though the betrayal still lingers. Some nights, when the house is quiet, I think about Rachel and what we had before everything fell apart. But I know now that I deserve better, and my girls deserve better. I won't let them grow up in a world where lies and deceit are tolerated. We'll move on from this, stronger and wiser. In the end, it wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life and protecting what mattered most, my daughters.